Hello and welcome to another episode of Prayer Matters. Today we are joined with the Pastor Gary Roderick. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Oh, shoot. So, Pastor Gary, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule today to talk to me and to the listeners about prayer. So, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions and get your feedback on prayer and what prayer is to you and how it's been influential in your life. So, in the most simplest of terms, how would you define prayer?
Prayer is communication.
Okay.
Simply
Communication.
As far as my experience, it's kind of like if you think about when you move away from home, and you make that call back home every so often, right? Usually to ask for something.
Right.
Okay, and that keeps the relationship, the connection alive between you and your family.
Right.
And if the communication breaks off and becomes more and more distant, the relationship becomes a little more distant.
Right.
Yeah, so it's all about, I want to say long distance communication to keep that touch, but really it's not, because God is everywhere.
Right.
And He's ever present. But to us, the human, it seems like He's far away.
Right.
So the more we communicate and make that effort to reach out, the relationship stays stronger and more vibrant.
Great. I like that because it kind of gives me a segue when you're talking about keeping those lines of communication open. How important, and you may have already answered this, but if you want to go into detail, how important do you feel that prayer is in the life of a believer?
Oh, it's absolutely one of the base activities.
Right.
It should be second nature. As Paul says, pray without ceasing.
Yeah.
It becomes a part of our life, whether we spend 15 minutes in solitude, talking, communing with God, or if we're driving down the road and we just say, thank you, Lord, I just thought of something. I just want to praise you for it.
Gotcha.
So it becomes a part of us in all aspects of our life.
Do you feel like there are certain places or times where you can just hear with even more amplification, or it's just like very pristine or very clear? Like, is it the car? Is it the garden? Is it walks? Like, I don't know what that looks like, but does that even exist for you? Like a place?
I find that it's when I'm alone and there's no distractions, where I can stay attuned to hearing what is said to me. I remember an instance, very vivid, and this has been years ago, and I'll never forget it, but I was dwelling on quitting smoking.
Okay.
And this has been over 20 years ago.
Wow, okay.
So, and I was in the mountains, and I was sitting down, and I pulled out a cigarette. It was the last one in the pack, and I was just sitting down, enjoying the peace and quiet, and I was getting ready to light it up. No distractions, and I was thinking, and then this audible voice spoke in my mind and said, let's let this be the last.
Wow.
And I said,
whoa.
Okay.
Wow.
And I'm not just saying that this was the one and only time.
Right.
But it's when you're not distracted, where you're not worrying about this or that.
So was it your last one?
It was. It was my last.
That's great. So, Pastor Gary, if you had to give encouragement to someone who may feel like life is not quiet right now with everything that we're in, with this year and all that it has brought to us, election, pandemic, job loss, all those things, there's so many distractions. what advice or what would you encourage someone to do that feels like they can't pray or they can't hear?
It's something that you have to make happen. Life is going to come at
That's
you
right.
full force. And unless you determine in your mind I need a break.
Yeah.
Let me just go step outside for a minute. Or let me just go to my room and close the door for a minute and where I can have some quiet time. You have to make the effort or it's not going to happen.
So you have to be intentional.
Exactly. Once you take that first step and repeat it and keep doing it, then you'll find other opportunities. Even when you're driving, you know, you have those pop-up prayers where you're just talking out loud in the privacy of your own car. And other people are kind of looking at you, you know, like, what's going on there?
Right. Okay.
But you can still talk and have your eyes open.
That's right. That's
drive.
right.
And you'll start finding other opportunities to pray.
Right.
And then when you start really getting in deep with prayer, then you'll set aside, you know, that 30 minutes or that hour where you really focus on praying. And we tend to think of praying as like, you know, there's some sort of special formula.
Right.
We have to include this, we have to include that. And, but it's talking just like you and I are talking.
Yeah, right.
Lord, you're so beautiful, you know. Sweet, that's a extraordinary necklace that you have on. God, you have such great attributes. I love the way you love me.
Yeah,
There's a beauty about you.
This is good. This is so good.
You know, it's conversation. And even when you're just giving thanks, the praise starts lifting up within you.
Yeah.
And then you know you've been talking to the Lord.
Woo!
When that praise starts flowing out, you know, at first when we first start out praying, it's our laundry list. Lord,
do this,
you know,
do that,
do this, do that for me, and
right.
all like that. But the deeper that you get into prayer and the more your relationship develops, it becomes more like you want to honor Him with your words, with your thoughts.
And giving worth and showing worth.
And yes, absolutely, the Lord wants to hear the desires of our heart.
Right.
But our desires start changing and becoming more in line with His desire.
Yes. That's good. That's good. Thank you so much, Pastor Gary. I feel such a peace right now. Like, I just want to go and talk to Jesus and tell Him how beautiful He is and how awesome He is. So I'm so appreciative because I think one of the things that I've endeavored to do, I wanted to endeavor to do, is hear everybody's story and their own personal journey. And everyone that I've spoken with has given me a different perspective and a different viewpoint and a vantage point of how to see and look at prayer. And so, you know, when you're talking about the peace and finding those quiet places and being intentional, and how the more you do it, the more it like goes from level to level. And so this is very encouraging for me to hear as someone who feels like I talk to God on a regular, and, you know, just bringing it back to the basis. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, sweet.
Yay. This has been another episode of Prayer Matters, and stay tuned because we could be coming to a seat near you.